All right, so I wanted to just share some of the moves that I'm going to be making in 2025. I'm kind of one of those guys that are like the new year, it's a new assignment, it's like a fresh blank page. So usually in December, what I'll do is take some time to just spend some time with God, spend some time with my family, spend some time with myself, looking introspectively and asking, okay, what did I do this year that was good? What did I do this year that I can improve upon? And what did I do or what did I not do this year that I know that I should be doing, or at least that I feel like God is preparing me for this next year? And so I wanted to share some of these things with you, showing the process that I'm going through, that hopefully I could look back on this later, 5 years, 2 years, a year down the road and go, yo, that's where it started right here, or this is where this shift began to take place. So I wanted to share some of those things with you today. Moves that I'm making in 2025. I feel like 2025 is going to be a big year. And I feel like there are some things that are just happening in my personal life that are, check this out, not all good. Like, I don't feel like necessarily 2025 is going to be a great year because I'm coming into it with so much momentum and everything's going my way and this year is going to be the best year. No, actually, it's not necessarily the opposite, but there are some things that I'm like, yo, this is kind of struggling over here. This could be better. I kind of took some L's in 2024 that, are causing me to limp a little bit into 2025. My attitude, my spirit is just like feeling like grateful and feeling thankful and feeling confident in God's work and God's ability and the abilities that he's placed inside of me. And so I'm just coming into it like, man, I just feel good about it. It's not that I don't have any reason to. I have some reason, there's some good things for sure that are on the horizon, some good things that are kind of happening. But there's also too some other things where it's like, if I focus on that, it could feel like, man, this is going to be a rough year. But I think it points to the importance of your perspective, the perspective that you have on your life, the perspective that you have on what God is doing inside of you. All of these things are important. The first thing that I'm focusing on in 2025 is a term that I got that I feel like is going to be pivotal for me really focusing on that. And that is this: build your economy. For me, I've been building my business for some years now. And, there's always highs and lows. And there's times where business is amazing. It's great. It feels like everything's going your way. And then there's times where it's like, man, it's just hard. Nobody seems to want to do business with you. And clients are all canceling at the same time. Like, it's just one of those weird kind of things. And what I've realized over the years is that, yes, I need to continue to build it up. And yes, I need to continue to grow. And I've been able to insulate myself more and more from the devastation that happens when you lose a client or things aren't going your way. And I feel like I've kind of got a good rhythm with that. Like, so, if everything just went away tomorrow, I feel like I'd be fine. And I would be able to know how to build it right back up again, which is great. But I do not like the vulnerability that it brings. Even though it may not crush you, it sometimes can be really uncomfortable, and it could cause you, depending on what other things are going on in your life, it could cause you to really like sway hard to just one area, and then everything else is affected. Say, I don't like that vulnerability. I don't like that vulnerability that it introduces into my life. And because of that, what I feel like the Lord has said to me and the wisdom that I feel like I have in this space of being able to create content and marketing, all that stuff, is, man, you need to build your own economy. You need to build your own economy. In other words, you need to build a resource, an economy that does not rely upon, interactions with clients in those ways. It does not rely on these big contracts. It's not vulnerable. It allows you to be even more insulated and allows you to really protect everything that God is doing. And so that's what I feel like. So what does that look like? Building your own economy. For me, that looks like IP, intellectual property. It means social, building on social, building on these other types of platforms to get more diversified income through, affiliate revenue, through AdSense, through digital products, through online courses, through coaching, through mentoring, through all of the events, like you name it, merch. Like, when you build your own economy, you're building a world that exists around your intellectual property. This is the way of modern business. This is the way that people are getting massive amounts of wealth. And it's not necessarily so much about the wealth. It's about what that wealth buys you, which is freedom. and it insulates you from those feelings that I just talked about earlier of like relying on clients, relying on the economy, relying on like this insulates you and is a whole different other type of world. If you're providing value, you're helping people save time, save money, make money, like if you're helping people in some way get some sort of actionable result, you're going to build an economy around that. Like there's going to be people that want to pay you for that. They're going to want to hear your thoughts. They're going to want to know your strategies. They're going to want you to teach, to show up at events. It's literally the way to go about modern business. And the cool thing about it and the best thing about it really is that your marketplace now becomes the entire world. Whereas I have a video production, content marketing agency here in Sacramento, my reach goes probably as far as California. Like other than that, it starts diluting. The further away that I go from Sacramento, the less people know me, the less people are familiar with other people that I've done work with. You just start diluting your reach because it's local business. It's very difficult. Building your own economy is really the way to go about it. It's really the way that will, for me, lead to the end result that I desire, which is mentoring and coaching other creative entrepreneurs in their business, is providing helpful, insightful content to help people grow in their faith, grow in their business, their family, their life, all of that stuff. So to me, that's the logical, like, man, that is, I need to be doing this, and I need to have been doing this for many years, but I've been putting it off. And, let's just kind of touch on that really quick, because maybe you're thinking like, yeah, I want to do that too. That's something that is important to me too. Why have I been putting it off? Well, a lot of it is fear, fear of criticism, fear of not, knowing what to talk about, fear of looking stupid, fear of all this, blah, 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 not having things figured out. Sometimes it could be a case of actually knowing too much, and you're just like, man, you're paralyzed. Paralysis of analysis is what they call it, right? So no, man, this is the way. This is the way to do it. This is going to be extremely beneficial for my life, my future, and everything I aspire to do. And I feel like God has already put it inside me to do it. I've just, been coming to terms and coming to grips with everything that he's been doing, which leads me to my next move that I'm going to be making in 2025. And this, to some audiences might sound, to my faith-based Christians, this might sound a little bit like, I don't know if that's good, but let me explain it. And that is this: going all in on myself. And once again, this whole idea of like self-promotion, self-exaltation, like that's a bad word. And it is. It's like you shouldn't be all obsessed with yourself and narcissistic and, everything revolves around you and you're going to get the bag no matter what, like that. And that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is going all in on myself, going all in on the things and the work that God has been doing in my life. I've had my head down working, in some cases, 16-hour days for years now. I've been building, I've been growing, I've been learning, I've been meeting, I've been doing a bunch of stuff inside of ministry, stuff inside of business, stuff inside of mentorship, stuff inside of coaching, all different aspects, stuff inside of just work that I've done, that I've learned from, just gaining experience, learning, growing, developing. And now what I feel like God is saying is now it's time to go all in on all those things that you've been growing in, learning in, doing, and it's time to put them out there for the world to see and for the world to benefit. And once again, this goes back to the previous thing where it could be a little scary. It's like, what if I put this out there and, it doesn't quite land right? Well, that's the price you pay, and you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. But what I do know is this: if you don't put it out there, then you're definitely not going to get any feedback and you'll have no impact at all. So that's the alternative. That's not what I want to do. Now is the time to go all in on myself, go all in on the things that God has showed me and walked me through and things I've learned. There's been so many different things. And so this is one of the biggest areas that I'm going to be challenging myself in 2025. And just for you guys to know a little side rant on that, one of the biggest areas where I'm most present and active and I really enjoy is LinkedIn. Man, I really enjoy LinkedIn. I feel like LinkedIn is a hidden gem. I feel like it's a little quirky. So it's it doesn't follow the same patterns as the other social platforms. So a lot of times what happens is people, and I did this myself, people get on LinkedIn and they just use it as a repurposing platform, where they just take stuff from TikTok and Instagram and they just throw it on LinkedIn and it doesn't do good. And then they're just like, LinkedIn sucks. You know what I mean? But there's a certain way, there's a certain approach you have to approach LinkedIn. And I've been learning and growing. I'm actually in a mentorship right now with one of the top LinkedIn creators. I just invested in that about 2 months ago. And so I'm learning even more in that. I'm doubling down in that. I feel like LinkedIn is a sleeping giant. There's a huge opportunity to be seen and to be noticed and to establish yourself in business and entrepreneurship on LinkedIn, and just provide value, man. Get valuable insight. I've met so many people off LinkedIn. I've got so much clients, so much referrals, so much. I mean, LinkedIn has been the most quality. It's not a lot, but it's quality relationship building, because it's a certain type of people that are on LinkedIn. So I would just shout out to you if you got a business and you're looking for another way to level up. I know we don't all need another social platform, but LinkedIn is definitely a place where I think you should be at, and it's been fun. So those are two of the biggest areas. Now let's kind of talk practical a little bit. What are some of the moves I'm going to be making practically? Because here's the thing is, whenever you say you want to do something new or you want to make another move, you have to understand this. And this took me a lot of years to understand this, is in order for you to make a move over here, you have to stop making a move over here. Like, you just can't add another move to all the moves that you're making. It doesn't work like that. Something is going to suffer, or you're just not going to do it, which is me. Like, I'm saying, oh, I want to do this. And I've tried to do it at different times, but fizzled out, never was really committed. And it's because I was trying to start something without stopping something. And that's extremely important. You have to stop something in order to start something. And so here's some of the things that I'm going to stop and start doing from a practical sense. So one of the biggest things that I'm going to stop doing is I'm going to stop being involved in production. And this is a scary one, because, it's like, man, I need to make sure I'm there. I need to make sure everything is going as planned, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. For the last couple of years, I've been building up a team. And this team, we're at the point, I believe, that, it's going to be as good as it's going to be without getting some, they need to be empowered to make decisions, to learn, to grow, to have conversations, to communicate. Like, I've gone as far as I can go. And now it's time for me to do the hardest thing, which is a thing that a lot of leaders don't like to do. And that is hand over power, hand over influence. And a lot of the reasons why is because there are fears that come with it. You fear like, oh man, what if this dude just takes all my clients and takes all my business? And you know what I mean? Everybody's looking at him now as the go-to guy for this and this and that. And you know what? That's part of it. It might. Now, the thing about it is, for me, and this is the thing for you too, is, you got to spend time developing quality relationships, so that to the point where it's like, no, I don't think that person would do that, because of how much we've grown together and how we've been and conversations we've had. And even to the point of, like, even if they did do that, I could still build them up again. I could still grow and get more business again, because I haven't learned. Like, you don't want to, this is a huge mistake. This is a huge mistake. I've seen a lot of people in this area where they are getting out of transition, right? I mean, out of production, or out of having their hands in it. They're passing over the baton to the people that they developed. The critical mistake that they make is that they remove themselves completely from all aspects of it. And then it becomes, the person's like, man, I'm lacking leadership. They still need leadership. It just looks different. And so if you're in that situation where you're looking at making a transition like that, yes, it is scary, but one of the ways that you should do that is you transition to kind of a different level of leadership. Is now you're not just guiding all the shoots and making sure everything's done correctly. Now you're helping them become better communicators. You're helping them become better at time management. You're helping them become better trainers of other people. One of the first things I got, my main guy, David, who's been growing alongside of me for years now. And one of the things that I'm always challenging him with is like, who is somebody that you're training up to make your job easier or allow you to focus on higher level tasks, And it's like, yeah, I got to get that person. And I'm like, yeah, you do. And so that's part of my job as a leader, is to make sure that he's growing as a leader. And if we're all growing as leaders and they're growing as leaders, I mean, that's how you build up something that is really sustainable. But you can't just pull yourself completely out of it and just go golfing or be completely just detached from the business. You have to stay involved. You have to stay growing, because people, just the way human nature works, like, you can't follow someone that isn't growing themselves. So if you're removing yourself from one area, The people that you're leading need to see you growing in another area. It's extremely important. They need to see you growing in that other area in order for them to stay committed and convicted and all in on their task, because you're the one that's telling them and coaching them. But if they don't see you growing, man, that's a huge blow to the confidence of like, man, where are we even going? That's a little commentary on that move. So getting myself out of production and focusing more on specific tasks that I need to be focusing on. What are those tasks? Those tasks are sales and marketing. Sales and marketing. So this would be phase 1 for me, is getting this thing going, getting myself out of production, making sure everybody is able to fulfill everything. Stage 2, which hopefully would come middle to end of the year, is going to be building up then a sales team so that the sales team can focus on handling all of the sales. And then that would free me up to just focus on marketing, which I think is one of the most important aspects that you can focus on. What is marketing? Creating content, running ads, and showing up, doing all of the stuff to get your message out in front of people, building out strategies, building out a team, all that kind of stuff. And so that's where things, I think, really start exploding. And hopefully that would be early 2026. And that's where you can just now focus solely on building up other people to also create content and market and so forth. And that's where I think you build out like really like a large media team. So those are some of the areas. I also want to throw one other practical aspect that I'm focusing on, is going to be podcasting. I think podcasting is going to be huge in 2025. And where I'm getting this information from is this last election. You know, I've been involved in political media for 6 years now. I've analyzed and been a part of many campaigns, nothing on a, country level like that, but smaller local stuff. Also, I'm in California, which is a large influencer of nationwide politics. So I've seen how things go, and I've noticed and watched certain trends and how people use, how media is used in presidential campaigns is a good indication of how it's going to continue to follow throughout those next 4 years, 3 to 4 years probably. And so I seen how it was done. Podcasts were a heavy, heavy tool that was used, and it was highly effective. People were tapped in, not to celebrities, because see, that was a thing of the past. Celebrities used to be able to get the job done. Government used to be able to get the job done. Now people don't trust either of those. They trust the voices that they listen to the most, the Joe Rogans, the Theo Vaughns. Like, they trust these people. These people entertain them. These people give them information. These people make them laugh. They make them think. They make them cry. Like, this is where people's attentions are, this long form content. Yes, it's extremely hard to build. Yes, it's extremely hard to do, but I think it's very, very valuable in the long term. And so that's where I'm going to be shifting a lot of my attention, as far as services being offered. And I think for that one, I do enjoy not necessarily the production side of it, but being on set for those. Obviously, you get to meet some quality, amazing people. You get to hear some amazing stories. And I think that this is like a really good network builder, just having long form conversations with people, being a part of other people's long form conversations. You just get to learn so much about people. And I love that. I get to meet people in my city and influencers and people doing great things and all kind of stuff. And so I have a few that are already booked up for this next year. So far 4 of them. So I'll be producing 4 podcasts starting in January, and hopefully, really my goal is to get another 10 more a month, and we just keep on cranking them out. And I have a studio and I'm building out sets for different types of podcasts. And so that's going to be really fun. And I'm really offering like a whole kind of done for you service, from start to finish, so that people can just kind of walk in, have their conversations, walk out. I do the rest. My whole team does the rest, really. So I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be fun. And I think it's also going to help me create a scalable offer, something that's simple, something that's clear, something that is priced the same. There's no like, how it is. If you have a video production company, like it changes because every project changes. Oh, we need you to go down to Southern California for 2 days to shoot this and then come up over here. It's like, you can't price every project the same because it just requires different things all the time. Sometimes you have to hire somebody who does motion graphics. Sometimes, it's just It's so all over the board. And I like that because it does leave room to add value, but I don't like that because it makes it not so scalable. You just need a scalable offer that's like boom, boom, rinse and repeat over and over and over. Same price, same process, same delivery over and over and over again. So one of the things, last thing on that is, and I would encourage you if you have a video production company to really focus on this, is one of the areas that I'm going to be competing on this new year is going to be speed, is going to be delivery time. So I'm looking at having all of my projects. I've already talked to my team. I've already talked to people, say, hey, listen, this is what I'm trying to do. I know it's crazy. It's going to add some pressure. We're going to have to figure this thing out. But that's how you grow. That's how you do things. But one of the things is a 3-day delivery time. So from the end of the shoot, 72 hours, we'll have the first draft to you, and even in some cases, 2 days, like just depending on what it is, boom, quick delivery times. I think that's going to be huge. People need it. People need it. It's also, if you've ever worked with a video production company, stuff can take forever. And that's one of the pain points of doing business and hiring somebody. They're expensive. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, blah, blah, blah. Well, I want to simplify that. I think that's going to be a great way to compete in the marketplace and a great way to create another scalable offer that is like, boom, this is how we do it. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Over and over and over again. Maybe it's a smaller budget, but maybe not. I don't know. Just depends on, I guess I'm still thinking through that, but I know most importantly, I want to, save people time. I want to really compete on that because I feel like there's not a lot of express deliveries happening in the video content space. So I want to do that. And I think it'll be beneficial. So those are some of my moves that I'm going to be making. If you stayed this long, I appreciate it. I'm going to try to chop this down in the edit a little bit, but I want to also give you a couple of scriptures that I think are going to be beneficial for this new year. The first one's a little heavy. It's in Ephesians 5, verse 5. And it says this, for you may be sure of this, that everyone who is sexually immoral or impure, or who is covetous, that is an idolater, has no inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. And what specifically stood out to me in that passage was the idea of being covetous. We know sexual immorality. We know all these other things are kind of, we know they're a sin, right? It's easy to understand. But this idea of being covetous, especially in the entrepreneurial space, in the marketing space, we see people all the time. I'm guilty of this. I see people and I'm like, man, I want that. I want what he has. He's able to have this big house, these nice cars, this family vacations, all this stuff. And I want that. I want what he has. And listen, you got to be careful with that. I got to be careful with that. And in this new year, it's not about being covetous. It's not about saying, oh, I want what he has. I want to be able to flex like this on the gram, or, once again, going back to like doing more content, right? And showing more of my life. You got to be very careful not to make it just about, look at me and all the great things I'm doing. Sure, that's, this is part of it, right? Like, oh, this is awesome. I got a new car, or I'm taking a trip. This is wonderful. Don't be ashamed of those things. But also don't make your whole presence and your whole existence and your whole brand about just all the amazing things that you have. You know what? Make it about some life things. Make it about some God things. Make it about some mission, some purpose, some vision, some ideas, some thoughts, some vulnerability. Like, don't just be so covetous, and don't promote covetous in other people. And so that's one of the big things is like, look, man, God gave you what he gave you. And already right now, what he's given you is so much. It's so much. So just focus on what he's given you and let everything else be what it is. So that's the first thing. The next scripture is actually in Ephesians chapter 5 as well. And it's in 15 through 17. And it says this, look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of time because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And this is one that I've struggled with. Is because I got, you got these ideas, you got these aspirations, you're not where you want to be. And you're just like, man, I gotta get there. And what begins to happen is you begin to start sacrificing everything else around you. You begin to start sacrificing family time, church time, fellowship time, all these other things that are extremely, extremely important for your health and for your well-being and for the will of God in your life. And what begins to happen is you start to look around and go, man, how did I get here? Well, you got here because you were not being wise. You were being unwise, and you were also too not redeeming the time, not making the best use of time is what it's called. Another translation says redeeming the time. because the days are evil. In other words, this, man, God has given you an assignment. And you have to understand, as an entrepreneur, as a believer, as a Christian entrepreneur, you have to understand that that is only one component to your life. Your business, your finances, your freedom, like that is only one component. And for a lot of us, it could be the main one, the main focus, where it's all we're focused on. Everything else doesn't matter. And that, my friend, would be very unwise. You need to walk and look carefully. Examine your situation, examine your habits, examine your heart, examine your mind, examine all of the things that are going on around you and ask yourself, is this God? Is this the will of God? Is this the Lord's will? You know, it says at the end of that, it says, therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And it's always going to be the will of the Lord that is going to lead to the most production, the most freedom, the most fulfillment, the most blessing, the most everything that you desire. So be wise and look carefully and understand what the Lord's will is. The last one, or the last scripture that I want to leave you with, is in one of my favorite books. It's in Proverbs, and it's chapter 23, verses 4 and 5. And it says this. It says, do not toil to acquire wealth. Be discerning enough to desist. And then it goes on to say, when your eyes light on it, it is gone. For suddenly it sprouts wings, flying like an eagle towards heaven, talking about wealth. And there's another translation, I think it's King James, that says, do not wear yourself out trying to get rich. And this kind of goes back to the previous scripture in Ephesians 5. To look and to be careful that in all that you're building, do not wear yourself out trying to acquire wealth. Do not sacrifice all this, your health, your family, your faith, your assignment in this world, relationships. Don't sacrifice those things. And let me just tell you, I haven't been the best at that. You know, thankfully, you know, it's a lot worse. Like people have done a lot worse, but you know, there's ways that I could do better. And I think my family deserves it. You know, God's assignment in my life deserves it. Like other people that I'm connected to deserve it. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on in 2025. That is going to be one of the biggest moves that I'm making. But I would love to hear your thoughts on any of this, if it sparks some inspiration or something in your own life, or just hear what moves you're making in 2025. Let me know in the comments. And of course, we will talk a lot more frequently and soon in 2025.